Alright guys, made a little trip to the to Fry's Electronics today and also a stereo store, and picked up a few parts that we needed for the wiring this weekend. So I'm going to show you what we're doing here. Open that one up. Alright, picked up this little aluminum project box. I thought it might be steel, we could weld to it, but I'll have to just bolt some brackets to it and a way to mount it. But yeah, it's just basically a little aluminum box with a cover on it that you can basically mount anything in there you want. So we're going to use that, and we've got this power distribution block that goes from a 1 gauge. It's got a 1 gauge in, and you can go up with a 1 gauge or 2 gauge out. And then on the side, it's got 3 4 gauge ports. So should be able to hook up all of our big stuff with that, starter, alternator, that kind of thing. And then also come from here into this. It's got a 4 gauge in, and it's got some 8 gauge out ports on it there. So, and then from that, we'll come here with an 8 gauge out to this little guy, and all of our switches and buttons and stuff that we're using for the starting system will come out of this. So we're going to mount all that inside this box. Also got some red heat shrink. We got plenty of the black here, but I've never bought any red before. I always just use the black even on the power wires. So I want to make sure I separate that, and any of the big power wires we use the red on, just to make it the correct color code. So anyway, we're going to be working on this over the weekend. Just want to show you what we're starting with, and we'll show you some, we make more progress. Alright, here's the box, and all of the distribution blocks out of their package again. So we'll come in this way with the 1 gauge. And then coming out this way, we'll come out with a 4 gauge going. That'll come out and go to the main fuse panel and power it up. And then out of this way, we'll come out with a 2 gauge, and that'll go to the starter. So I'll take care of our main power feeds. And then also coming out this way to here, 4 gauge, a little short piece. And then from here, an 8 gauge to power this up, and then some 14, 16 gauge coming off of these little terminals out. And I also want to get one more of these to go here to consolidate all the grounds. So some of these things need grounds and so forth, and it'll be a clean way to do it. So anyway, that's what we'll be working on this weekend, and we'll show you more as we progress. Alright, well, we're out here doing a little bit of work. Matt's working on our power wire, rerouting it a different way, bringing it up to the front. You saw the power distribution box that we made, and we're making some progress on it. Here it is, all mounted up, and Matt will show us the power wire where it comes in up from the back. We'll take a look at that. So we're going to feed. We've got a mega fuse mounted on the battery as it comes out of the battery, mounted to the battery box, 150 amp, and we're coming up here to feed a 1 gauge distribution block, and off of that 1 gauge coming off the other side, we're going to feed it from the battery on this side, and coming out of this side is a 2 gauge. It's going to go out and go to the battery, to the starter. And then from this distribution block we go 4 gauge out and feed this guy, and then this thing's got 4 8 gauge outlets on it, and we're going to use one of them and come here. And then from this we've got a hot bus that we can run some 12 14 gauge wires off of to go and power up all of our relays and so forth. So we're making a little progress. We'll come back and show you in a little bit when we get some of the rest of it all worked in there. So this box basically is mounted underneath the dash up against the trans tunnel, and it'll basically be covered up with carpet, and then the console that we're going to custom make is going to come around it, so basically won't be able to see that. So anyway, we'll come back and give you an update in a little bit. All right, well, it's Saturday night. We've made some progress today. Matt's doing a little cleaning up over there for us. We got some of our wiring done, and I know it's doesn't really look that much better, but it's has the potential to look really good. We just got everything roughed in right now, and tomorrow we're going to make a few more connections, and we'll be ready to wrap it up and you know, tie wrap everything up, get it all nice and neat. We'll come back tomorrow. Should maybe 2-3 more hours on this, have it all ready to call it good. So that's a wrap for tonight. We'll show you the rest tomorrow. All right, well, we've wrapped up our wiring work for the weekend here, and just to recap, this is our main power wire coming in from the back, and it makes its way into the power distribution box that we showed you before. And we've got a ground right there that goes through the frame rail and also runs into the box. And you know, we got a good ground to the ground bus that we created inside the box. And we made a little plate here on the back of the ECU stand to mount the relays on that you saw that were just kind of hanging loose over there earlier. We still got a little bit more work to do. We inside the power distribution box, we still got to make all of our final connections. We just kind of got them sitting in there now, but we've got a couple more grounds and one more power wire to run, and then we'll secure all those connections and do a little bit of cable management inside the box to make it a little nicer and neater. The back of our key on switch, which is the one on the right, and the start button, which is the one on the left, we've ordered a couple of, well, actually I've ordered a billet button to replace that toggle switch, a latching billet button to match the one here on the right that you see, and get rid of that toggle switch. So we'll have two buttons that look the same. And so yeah, looks a lot nicer and neater, cleaner. We used, got to work on this down here a little bit more, but we used GM WeatherPack connectors. There's one right here to make all of our connections with. We've got labels, and I'm gonna get I've got a spreadsheet that I've made that we've documented all the connections and where they go to, and so with a big spaghetti nest like that, we're gonna probably need that at some point when something doesn't work right. So anyway, all of our power wires that go to anything are all fused. Got a few of those, so we'll document where the fuses are and all that. So and just left a few loose connections here to when we get our new buttons to go on the back, and ordered this thing's got like 6 connections on it, and there's they sell a pigtail that's like $12 that go with those buttons, and so I've ordered 2 of those so we can make a nice socketed connection going into the back of the buttons there. And so that'll be pretty much rid of all the spade connectors and that kind of stuff. So anyway, it's getting there. And then oh, this is the 2-gauge wire coming out of the big power distribution block and going to the starter. And then from the starter, we also junctioned over to the alternator with a 4-gauge wire. So that's how we have it. Anybody see anything I should do differently, or any suggestions or anything? We'll come back and clean this up just a little bit more, make it a little nicer and neater. And some of these loose wires here, of course, we'll be making those connections, so it'll get all that cleaned up. But anyway, we'll call this a wrap, and not a lot, but we spent several hours on this just to get this to look like this, and obviously didn't even start on this bad boy, so that'll be quite the project in and of itself. Alright guys, have a good one. Thanks.